Greetings to all lovers of history and mysterious cultures. Did you know that in ancient Tibet, there were special places where young men and women prepared for adult life away from parental control? Imagine large dark rooms where teenagers freely communicated, sang songs, learned to flirt, and discovered life in all its manifestations. And this happened in a region with one of the strictest religious traditions. Today we embark on a fascinating journey through the Black Houses of Tibet, a unique cultural phenomenon that existed for centuries, but about which few people know outside this mountainous region. Why is this topic so interesting? Because it completely overturns our perceptions of traditional Tibetan society. By the end of the video, you will learn how these houses influence the region's demographics and why some researchers believe that thanks to them, Tibet avoided overpopulation. I will also tell you about the incredible rites of passage into adulthood that took place in these houses and why the Chinese authorities tried to ban this ancient tradition. Stay with me until the end, and you will definitely learn a lot of new things. Black houses, or as they were called in Tibetan, nak-khang, were special public spaces that existed in almost every village in Tibet until the middle of the 20th century. They got the name black not because of the color of their walls, but because inside it was always dimly lit. There were no windows, and they were illuminated only by a hearth in the center of the room. These houses played a crucial role in the social and educational life of Tibetan society. Unlike the Western world, where the adolescent period often passes under strict parental control, Tibet had a completely different approach. When young men and women reached 13 to 14 years of age, they began to visit black houses where they could spend time away from adults. It was a socially recognized space of freedom and self-expression for young people. Interestingly, this tradition originated long before the spread of Buddhism in Tibet and has roots in the ancient Bon religion, a shamanic tradition that flourished in this region. Archaeological findings suggest that black houses existed as early as the 6th to 7th century of our era, and possibly earlier. What happened inside these mysterious houses? First of all, they were centers of socialization and learning. During the day, older teenagers taught younger ones various practical skills: spinning wool, weaving, making masks for ritual dances, and wood carving. Girls learned embroidery, preparation of traditional dishes, and medicinal infusions. But the most interesting things happened in the evenings when black houses turned into places for communication, games, and entertainment. Young people gathered around the central hearth, told stories, sang songs, and danced. Love songs were an important part of the evening gatherings. Through them, young people learned to express their feelings and court each other. Elderly Tibetans, recalling their youth, often speak with nostalgia about these songs. They were full of metaphors and allegories. For example, a young man might compare a girl to a beautiful flower growing high in the mountains, and she would respond by comparing him to an agile yak capable of overcoming any obstacle. These poetic duels could continue for hours and were a true art form. In black houses, teenagers also studied Tibetan mythology and epics. The older ones told the younger ones legends about demons and spirits, about King Gezer and other heroes. Through these stories, moral values, concepts of good and evil, and proper behavior were transmitted. Thus, young people received not only practical but also spiritual knowledge. One of the most intriguing features of black houses was that they provided young people with a safe space to get acquainted with the opposite sex. In traditional Tibetan society, marriages were often arranged by parents, but young men and women could form romantic relationships during gatherings in the nak-khang. Interestingly, these relationships followed strict etiquette. If a young man liked a girl, he couldn't simply approach her and start talking. First, he had to prove his courage and determination. After the evening songs and dances, when most participants went home, an interested young man could try to secretly escort the girl to her house. This wasn't as simple as it might seem. Girls specifically lived in groups of 3 or 4, and a young man had to show real ingenuity to approach his chosen one unnoticed. Often, young men overcame serious obstacles, climbing over high fences, making their way through thorny bushes, or even swimming across mountain streams. If a girl liked the courtship, she could allow the young man to visit her in a special room for guests. There they talked, sang songs to each other, and got to know each other better. These meetings did not imply intimacy. Their goal was to form an emotional connection. It is important to note that, contrary to popular Western belief, black houses were not places of promiscuity. On the contrary, they taught young people responsible attitudes toward love and partnership. Young men and women understood that their behavior affected the reputation not only of themselves, but of the entire family. Older teenagers, who were 17 to 18 years old, played a special role in the black houses. They acted as mentors and maintained order. If any of the younger ones broke the rules, for example, showed disrespect to girls or tried to provoke a conflict, the older ones had the right to punish the violator, usually by assigning them additional work. In some regions of Tibet, there was an interesting custom associated with black houses. When a girl first came to such a house, she had to bring a small cloth bag of barley flour. This bag symbolized her readiness to become part of the community and contribute to the common cause. Young men, in turn, brought small wooden crafts, demonstrating their skill. Surprisingly, black houses also served as a place for resolving conflicts between young people. If disagreements arose between young men, they could arrange a special duel, not physical, but poetic. Each had to compose a song ridiculing the opponent and perform it in front of everyone. The winner was determined by the audience's reaction. This method taught young people to solve problems without violence, using wit and creative abilities. Black houses also played an important role in seasonal festivals and rituals. For example, during the Tibetan New Year, Losar, young people prepared special performances, masked dances depicting the struggle between good and evil spirits. These performances were later shown to the entire village, and they had not only entertainment, but also ritual significance. They were believed to drive away misfortunes and attract prosperity in the coming year. Despite the relative freedom that black houses provided, they were deeply integrated into the social structure of Tibetan society. Village elders regularly visited these places to give advice to young people and ensure that traditions were observed. This was not an uncontrolled free-for-all, but a special form of upbringing, recognized and supported by society. Interestingly, in different regions of Tibet, black houses had their own characteristics. In eastern Tibet, Kham, they were often located in separate buildings outside the village. In central Tibet, Utsang, they were usually set up in large rooms inside residential houses. And in northern Tibet, Changtang, where the population led a nomadic lifestyle, large tents set up during winter stops served the role of black houses. The most amazing aspect of black houses was how they helped young people find future spouses. In Tibet, there were several forms of marriage, and acquaintances in nak-khang often led to so-called marriages by choice, when young people decided for themselves whom they wanted to connect their lives with, and parents merely gave their blessing. Anthropologists note that such a system had important demographic consequences. Since young people had the opportunity to meet potential partners before marriage, this reduced the number of unsuccessful unions and divorces. In addition, late marriages, usually after 20 years of age, helped control the birth rate in a region with limited resources. With the advent of Chinese rule in Tibet in the 1950s, the tradition of black houses began to disappear. The new authorities viewed them as a remnant of the feudal past and actively fought against them. By the 1970s, most nak-khangs were closed, and young people were directed to official schools and youth organizations. However, in some remote regions of Tibet, this tradition continued to exist underground. And in recent decades, with some softening of cultural policy in China, individual villages have begun to revive black houses, no longer as educational centers, but as a way to preserve cultural heritage and attract tourists. Today, many Tibetan activists and cultural scientists call for preserving and studying the tradition of black houses as a unique pedagogical experience. They note that this system gave young people the opportunity to smoothly transition from childhood to adult life, master necessary skills, and form healthy relationships with the opposite sex. What can we learn from the experience of Black houses today? Perhaps the main lesson is the importance of creating safe spaces where teenagers can socialize, experiment, and learn under the unobtrusive guidance of elders. In the modern world, where young people often find themselves left to their own devices in virtual space, such experience seems particularly valuable. So, we have taken a fascinating journey into the world of Tibetan Black houses, unique spaces where teenagers learned about adult life. We have learned how these houses helped young people master practical skills, form relationships, and become full-fledged members of society. What do you think? Could a similar tradition take root in the modern world? Which elements of the Tibetan upbringing system seem useful to you, and which seem outdated? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm very interested to know your opinion. If you liked this video, don't forget to like it. It really helps the channel grow. Subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss new episodes about unusual traditions of peoples around the world. And if you have friends interested in history and culture, share this video with them. In upcoming episodes, we will continue to explore the amazing educational traditions of different peoples. And believe me, you are in for many surprises and discoveries. Stay with us and remember, getting to know other cultures not only broadens your horizons, but also helps you better understand yourself. Until next time,